Hello, everyone. It's Shane Conto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland, my weekly show where I take a deep dive into a particular film. And we're getting into the home stretch here with Steven Spielberg, as we're going to be talking about Bridge of Spies. And I have my good friend Adam here joining me. Um, we're recording on the same day, very different times though. So, Adam,
Very
thank you
different
for coming
times.
on.
I'm ready for bed. You're just waking up. Yeah, no. Yeah, pleasure as always to come on. Yeah, always a treat.
Yep. And before we jump into the three segments of the show, would you like to shamelessly plug anything and tell people where they can find you?
Maybe not totally shamelessly, but yeah, Letterboxd. You'll see me on there pretty much every day.
Mhm.
Getting my numbers up there for this year. So yeah, always review whatever I watch. So yeah, I think sometimes funny, sometimes poignant. Just yeah, check me out. Curb Rider.
It-
Sorry, I don't know if I ever actually said it was Curb Rider.
there you go. Sometimes you just have to find, because like I could tell some people are just on Letterbox to have some fun with their reviews,
Yeah, I
or
know. Yeah.
and like yeah, I get a good laugh out of them, but like I appreciate the balance of like you could be funny, but I actually feel like I
Yeah.
got something out of reading your review. So, and that's Adam. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Yeah. Well, honestly, I on my letterbox is for me. It actually helps me. I like the I like to having the diary aspect of it and the stats. So, yeah, I write it purely for me, yeah, honestly, because
Mm.
it's good to go back and review. It's not always nice to get a like and a comment here and there, but 100% I do it for myself, selfishly.
Well, that's funny because that's why I use Letterbox is just to keep track of stuff, and it's purely just
Mm.
for the new movies that I watch, new releases. So I'm like, people can see all the stuff that I'm seeing, but like, really, it's for me to keep
Yeah,
track of
you don't write
things. So
reviews. You need to
no,
direct us to your YouTube channel.
yeah, I got got other places that you could go see my thoughts. So, but for those who have not tuned in to Welcome to the Wasteland before, we have three segments on this show. We have coming attractions, so we'll be talking about the new releases for this week, which this is Thanksgiving week here in the US. So, a lot of stuff coming out this week to talk about on all kinds of media, which there's streaming stuff. Netflix is dropping a whole bunch of crap this week too. And then we'll be getting into our feature film, which is Bridge of Spies, which is a crime kind of thriller
Cold War
drama,
thriller, I'd say. Cold War
specifically
thriller.
Cold War thriller, written by the Coen brothers
Yeah.
originally. I think
Mm.
moved over and like somebody did a write over on
The
this
third
one.
guy. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
and
can't remember
then
his name, but the third guy.
yeah, starring Tom Hanks and directed by Steven Spielberg, which that collaboration is one of the most fruitful and frequent in film. And then I think between the two of us, we have a lot of interesting things to recommend to all of you at the end. So this should be a
Hmm.
good episode. But getting into the coming attractions, so I'm just going to have us do the two that we are most excited about because one, they're the two biggest ones. And then we'll jump into a bunch of the other stuff that's coming out. But Adam, what's the film that you're most excited about coming out?
Well, sticking with the Spielberg theme, it's the Fabelmans, but
Yep.
sadly for us here in Australia, we don't get it until early January. So um, I'll be, yeah, I know, bloody Australia with its horrible release dates and physical media issues. But yeah, absolutely. Spielberg, I don't think any more needs to be said, and it's got some great pre-reviews. So
Mhm.
very, very keen.
Yeah, I'm excited because this came out at a perfect time because I will be doing a Fablemans episode to wrap up my whole deep dive into Spielberg. I'm going to be doing
Mm,
that one with Rowan and Foster.
oh, nice.
Because they're my two pals that see everything early in New York because they're in New York.
Yeah, and then in the same time zone as well.
That that also does help. Uh,
I reckon, yeah.
and they're also both like early 20s, so usually they can be pretty flexible with times. And I'm like, I'm running late. They're
Yeah.
like, I'm up until whatever, so that works. So, um, we'll be talking about that. My number one, which is getting a very specific 1 week only release in theaters here, is The Glass Onion, a Knives Out story. Because we're getting it for 1 week here in the US in theaters. It's the first Netflix film coming out in an AMC. So, like, this is a big deal that
Oh, wow.
they actually came to an agreement on this. And then I think it's Christmas Day or around there that it
Yep,
actually comes out on Netflix. But
for
I'm
real.
a
Okay.
huge fan of Knives Out. I'm a huge fan of Ryan
Mm-hmm.
Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Benoit Blanc is such a fun character, and I can't wait to see him.
Foghorn Leghorn.
It's like CSI, KFC. Yeah, but he definitely is Foghorn
Yeah.
Leghorn, like 100%. Him getting dropped in with this whole new cast, which it's a very interesting
Mm.
cast and has some like really talented actors, like pulled Edward Norton out of nowhere. Uh,
Yeah,
which
he probably tried to rewrite the film as it was being made.
like I'm trying to think. Besides, I think Edward Norton's only been in. Well, I know he's been in Grand Budapest. I'm pretty sure he popped up in French Dispatch somewhere. If he
Yeah,
didn't,
he
he was
was
the
in French
only person
Dispatch.
in
Yeah.
Hollywood that wasn't in it. So, um, and
He does get pretty quiet, doesn't he? Now.
yeah, he did Motherless Brooklyn, which he did. He created that
Yeah, he
film.
wrote and directed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he's in it. You have Leslie Odom Jr., Kate Hudson,
Mm.
Batista. It's a interesting cast, and
Yeah, Bautista. I don't know. He's my big doubt. But otherwise, it's not going to stop me watching that.
according to the posters, he's the loose cannon.
What a shock! That's a shock.
Which I'm a pro wrestling fan, so like I've known Batista since knew of Batista since I was in like sixth grade. But like
Yeah.
it's been interesting seeing him turn into an actor and also how he perceives his journey, which like he's like, I want to work with real directors. And then The Rock's going around saying, like, it's kind of cool that Black Adam's like making A24 money. So we're like the underground superhero movies. I'm like, shut your mouth. Like,
He's what a spin! What a
what a
spin that is!
spin.
My goodness,
That
The Rock will
was
be running for president
if
with lies like that.
if the show Young Rock's any indication, probably we're gonna find
Oh,
out.
really?
Um, I'm
I,
I'm shocked he didn't like tear an ACL doing that kind of like acrobatic spin there. Trying to be like Wakanda Forever just demolished us, but like we're underground. I'm like, you're
yeah, yeah.
you're from Warner Brothers. This isn't an underground project. It's just
The fact, the fact that Warner canned the Batgirl movie and released this black. Yeah, come on.
well, and he's already getting in arguments, apparently. Obviously, I don't work at
Right.
the studio, so I don't know. But I heard reports he's already getting in arguments with James Gunn, who's now in charge of creative.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
James Gunn wants Superman to be the focal point of his DC universe. And The Rock's like, it should be
As it should
Black
be.
Adam. I'm like, in what world? In what world?
The Rock must be. He must be hard up for money, spending it all on that protein powder and steroids or something. Because
Well,
why does he want to be a focal point? What's the ego? Like,
I that's just The Rock, to be honest.
yeah, yeah,
Just
yeah, yeah.
the only thing bigger than what's bigger than the Black Adam box office? The Rock's head. So that's
Yeah.
true. Um, but I got like I was so excited about Knives Out. I love that movie. And then when Netflix spent $400 million to get two sequels to, I'm like, what? Like
Which is why they charge so much for their subscriptions. That's
they are
because we're paying for that.
financially reckless. Like,
Yeah, they I had a discussion with a friend today, and I think they're bringing about the downfall of actual cinema. Honestly, they're very much helping the downfall of real cinema.
Well, I think they're
Um,
helping bring the swift downfall of Netflix. Like,
yeah, absolutely, absolutely,
well,
and
you know,
good,
crazy
good.
is if you look at the slate of films coming out for like award season in like the like
Mhm.
October, November, December, the sheer amount of them that are Netflix distributed in the US is
Oh, they're
insane.
trying. They're
I'm like,
trying hard, aren't they?
I'm like, what Oscar contender is not a
Yep.
Netflix film at this rate? It's crazy. Um,
They saw Apple win it last year, and they're like, "Fuck this! We've been trying for years.
and
We're going hard."
Apple's like, we got one.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
about slavery. So
yeah.
we're gonna win this one.
They might do too.
So
Will
which
Smith
is
again,
funny
eh?
because
What?
well, here's the thing. Big difference between Apple and Netflix. Apple doesn't waste money. They have like
No.
they have Smaug dragon treasure pile levels of cash just hanging around on their
Oh
books.
yeah, yeah,
That's just Apple.
yeah.
So like they're smart and invest accordingly. Netflix is
Wouldn't you
just
love
throwing
to see
everything at
Netflix?
the wall.
Wouldn't you love to see Netflix fall in a heap and Apple just come in and pick them up off the lot at a clearance sale and just
They
buy
could.
Netflix?
They have the
They could
money.
buy them today.
They have to
Absolutely.
they have to quickly like sneak in before Jeff Bezos shows up.
I want to see a South Park episode where they do a storage wars and open up the thing and Netflix is in there and Tim Cook's outside or something. Like that's
Oh, that
he's
just
like,
writes
I'm buying
itself.
it, $20. I know. I know. I just come with that up on the spot. Matt and Trey, if you're listening, I want credit.
There you go. Yeah, Trey Parker, Matt Stone, you heard it here first. So, just to give a little bit of extra context to what's coming out this week too, which this is so crazy. It's like some of these weeks there's been barely anything coming out, and then Thanksgiving is just like
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
Bones and All from Luca Guadagnino is getting its wide
Yeah.
release here, which I'm seeing that today. On
Oh,
my day off.
nice.
So
Can't wait
um
to see what you think.
I've heard some things, but the thing is, my gauge
Yeah,
is
yeah,
I love the Suspiria remake. So I feel like
yeah.
I'm
It's so
probably
good.
in a better headspace to enjoy this movie than most people.
Yeah.
Because I knew a lot of people like that movie was how I found out that my brother loved slasher movies and not just horror movies.
Oh,
Because he's like,
oh.
what new horror movies came out? I'm like, there's this. And then he watches like, what the F did you just have me watch? And I'm just like, you asked. I recommended that in Midsummer. He was not happy.
Oh, oh, for real.
But my brother is not necessarily somebody that like loves film. Like he
Yep,
likes
yep,
having a
yep.
good time and enjoying movies, and he's just like, "What the hell were these movies?" I'm like, "Well, definitely not fun."
Some people watch it for the escape. Some people watch it for the art, right? So
Yeah, my brother's
I guess your
definitely
brother's the escapist.
escape person, and just like no,
Yeah.
like he'll watch like Freddy and Jason and Michael Myers and all kinds of crazy stuff like that. But no, not
Mm,
that. So I'm interested to see how Bones and All is. I
mm.
could definitely see that being something where she's like, "Oh my god, why'd I watch this?" Or like, "It's profound." And cannibals. Um,
Pretty movie profound.
yeah. Then we have a Korean War film, Devotion, coming out this week with Jonathan Majors and Glenn
Yes.
Powell, which I'll be seeing that Sunday. I was originally going to take my mom
Yeah.
to see it on Friday because
Okay.
it's the kind of movie my mom would really like to see. And then realizing all my Thanksgiving plans are like narrowing, I'm just like, well, can't squeeze in this 2 hour and 20-minute movie plus 30 minutes of trailers. um,
Well, I've heard bad things about Devotion already, so I saw some reviews today on Letterboxd. So,
Darn
yeah,
it.
good luck with
Well,
that.
I imagine Jonathan Majors is great, and because like he usually is.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
uh this is just his get people's attention, so then he pops up in Kang as Kang in Quantumania
Yeah, yeah,
in a couple months, because that comes out in February. And then
yeah.
Strange World comes out, the new
Yes,
Disney, which that one's getting iffy, like
I
fine,
saw.
okay, kind of
I didn't
reviews.
know that existed till I saw a trailer last night, and I
I
was
have
like,
to
"Oh,
say they did
this
a really
actually looks all
bad
right."
job marketing this movie. Like
Yeah,
a really bad job. And then there's a couple of like things coming from Netflix that are going to be around. So like Lady Chatterley's Lover, which I just got a screener for. I'll be watching that when we're done recording here. You got The Sun comes out limited release, which I actually have a press screening for tonight. It makes me
the
so
sun.
sad to get horrible reviews with Hugh
Oh, really?
Jackman and Anthony Hopkins. And then,
Oh no. Oh, that's the Florian Zeller, the
yeah,
guy who did the father, right?
I was
Oh
I
wow.
was
So he's
excited for that too. Because
of course, yeah,
the
yeah.
father floored me. I'm just like,
The
oh my,
father's still floors me. Even thinking about it now, it still floors me.
like, bam. And then
It's
White
yeah.
Boys, the new Noah Baumbach film, gets a very,
Oh,
very limited Netflix theatrical release, which is probably just playing in the Netflix theater in New York City. And
isn't
then
it?
Adam Driver, I think's in it.
Yeah, I was gonna say Adam Driver, and I think Greta Gerwig is actually acting in this year
Yeah, it
in this
comes
film.
out
Yeah,
on Netflix at the end of December. So a lot of things swirling around here. But our main
I'm not
purpose
gonna
here
touch
is
my
to
watch
talk.
list.
Yep, a lot of things. I'm trying to squeeze in all these new releases on my 5 days
Yeah,
off, and I'm like mad planning here, trying to do that between like
yeah.
like family during Thanksgiving. Um,
I gotta get
and
priorities.
oh, I think I have a plan. I think it's good. I'm gonna make it work. I did luck out that I saw the Fabelmans Monday night because I'm like, where the hell would I fit that in this week? So
Yeah,
I probably would have been doing double, and my wife definitely wanted to see that one, so I would have planned around that one. She she isn't. She's like, if I don't see Bones and all, that's okay. And I don't think she really cares about Devotion. She is excited about Glass Onion though, so that's why we're seeing that one on
yes,
Thanksgiving
yeah,
together.
yeah.
Um,
Nice.
but our main focus for today is Bridge of Spies, which this film, I actually saw this in theaters, which I'm trying to think how many Spielberg films I've actually seen in a theater. I think I saw this one, I saw The Post, and then like I've seen The Post and Ready Player One and West Side Story in theaters, but Bridge of Spies might have been one of the first ones that I've actually seen in a theater for Spielberg. Because everything else I just,
I've,
watched growing up.
I've got to confess. I've got to confess. I have never seen a Spielberg movie in the cinema. Never, not one.
Is the Fablemans
Which
going to
is
be first?
ridiculous. The Fabelmans probably will, honestly. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um,
I had a
but
really,
that is bizarre, man. You brought that up and made me think that. And I was like, I never have. That's
yeah, I had
sad.
a realization about the Coen brothers where I'm just like, I've only seen one Coen brothers movie in a theater, and that was Hail
That's
Caesar.
still one more than me.
Well, it was
Right? Okay.
it was it was Hail
A good
Caesar
one
because
then.
that's the only one that since I've been regularly going to the movie that's come out because Ballad of Buster Scruggs came out on Netflix.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Yep.
I got a I got an early Apple screening for Tragedy of Macbeth because basically, if you get into their screening room, they literally put everything on it. You don't even have to reach out about it after that. So it just plops in there.
Oh,
So I just check it every day,
okay.
be like, anything new? And that was a glorious day
Oh,
when I popped in and saw that pop in. I'm like, yes.
I've
Um,
got to talk to you about that off air maybe because I want to know how you get into that.
I'll let you know. But the main thing is like I remember seeing this in a theater with my wife when we were together the first time because this came out in like 2013. Um Bridge of Spies focuses on a New York lawyer, uh, who played by Tom Hanks. Which I think one of the things that stood out to me the most when I watched this for the first time was crotchety, sarcastic Tom Hanks. Because like this is 2015. So this was,
Yeah.
you know, this lawyer, and Tom Hanks is like sarcastic, and I'm like, there's that Coen Brothers dialogue. I can feel that.
Yes,
And
absolutely. Yeah.
he winds up uh doing the defense for an accused Soviet spy played by Mark Rylance, this was the Mark Rylance coming out party to most of the world, because like I had never heard of Mark Rylance before this movie,
Anyone outside the UK, yeah.
and he won that Oscar, which that was a controversial evening for many
Yeah.
people, especially in the Northeast of America, because all those Italian Americans were
Oh.
very pissed off.
Ah, yes, that's right. Sylvester, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
should have went to
New Jersey was
Rocky.
nothing else.
So yes, I know for a fact a lot of Italian people in America were very mad. Um,
That's
but
funny.
basically we have this story where it's just like he does this defense, and then this lawyer is sent to East Germany to try to negotiate a trade of this prisoner, and for a pilot, and also, if he could make it work, this young student as well. And that's the setup here. Mark Chairman, who is one of the credited screenwriters here, who I'm assuming did like a rewrite and such on the Coen's original script, because
Yeah,
there's
I reckon he might have had
aspects
to
of it.
come and tone down some humor.
Yeah, I could, or potential darkness too, depending on which Coen it was. Um,
Yeah,
because the thing is, like, you could feel some elements of the Coens in this, but you could
yeah,
definitely tell it's not a Coen movie. Like,
yes.
it does
Couldn't
not
agree
quite
more.
feel like it. And I think you needed somebody to come in and kind of Spielberg it. Because, like,
Yeah,
but
it's interesting they
Spielberg,
didn't direct it.
yeah, because Spielberg and Cohen's sensibilities don't necessarily match
No,
up
they're
at
very
all.
different. No, very different.
So,
Yeah.
which it's interesting because there's been a couple of Coen Brothers scripts that have been turned into movies, like Suburbicon. Which, here's the thing:
Mm-hmm.
if the Coens don't think they can make this script work, what makes you think you can? That's my question.
Yeah, isn't that a, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean the Cullens are amazing. I wonder what the yeah, I'd love to know the behind the scenes and
Now,
why and how that happens.
well, because I know what the Suburbicon thing is. The Coen Brothers wrote that back in the '80s, and they couldn't make it work. They
Ah,
weren't happy with
right.
it. And then George Clooney bought the rights to it, and him and Grant Haslev reworked it, and they shouldn't have.
They couldn't make it work either.
Oh, I am mistaken. So this was originally Matt Chapman's script, and then
Oh, they
did
punched it up.
the Coens did a reworking
Ah,
of it, which,
okay.
according to Chairman, the brothers were able to really punch up the negotiations on the back end of the movie. Then they handed the
Uh,
baton back to me to do a pass after they did their pass, to make the movie just sit in a place we all wanted it to be. The flavor they brought is so fun and enjoyable. Okay, so I'm
yep.
imagining they brought
Okay.
this snarky dialogue and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah.
sense, I guess.
To me, that sounds like Spielberg wanting it to be watchable. I think obviously Charman's original must have been pretty dark and bleak because it
Yep.
was Cold War, right? So the Coens. There's one scene in particular that caught my eye that I was like, "That's the Coens all over." It was when Hanks is on the train and everyone's looking at him because he's defending this Russian spy,
Mhm.
and it was just funny the way everyone was looking at him. I was like, yeah, that's definitely a Cohen's bit there. Like, no speech necessary.
Which I get, like that makes sense to me that they wanted to, like you said, like make it watchable and like because that's the thing. This would have been a dark
Absolutely,
watch
yeah,
if they
yeah.
didn't have some of that dialogue in there. And Tom
Hmm.
Hanks's character, which I love Tom Hanks in this movie. I think he does such a great job
Yeah,
with like
yeah, yeah.
the dry
He's
snarkiness about it all. And then of course you have like Alan Alda pops up briefly in the film. Um, I can really feel the Cohen's dialogue in Mark Rylance's character. Just the way that
yes.
he's so dry and witty about it all. I'm like, that's Cohen's all over it.
Hanks kind of reminds me a lot, and as we're speaking about it out loud, yeah, his character kind of reminds me a lot of what he did in The Green Mile.
Okay.
He's he's straight laced, but he
Mhm.
has that bit of a frilly edge to him, I guess, where you can see the bit of humor and like he's very authoritative, but he's also a human, I guess. So
Yeah,
yeah, so it's yeah, I feel a bit of that Green Mile character come out here.
it's interesting. To be honest, one of the characters that I thought of first from like comparative to one of his other Spielberg films is I got a little bit of hand ratty from Catch Me If You Can in it.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
because
in my letterbox review, I wrote Tom Hanks as being his Hanksiest. Like this is,
yeah,
I mean, he's being Tom Hanks, and so you mentioned all these other characters. I don't think either of us are wrong. I think he's just
yeah,
being Tom Hanks, right? Yeah.
because I think Tom Hanks really enjoys working in Spielberg films because like
Oh yeah.
this and like I think with Catch Me If You Can and Bridge of Spies, he got a chance to be a little snarkier and less of like
Mm.
the because like in Saving Private Ryan, he has a very like paternal kind of presence and every guy kind of feels as well. And here it's like
Hmm.
he's snarky, he's doing his job, he's a little bit hard nosed, he's a tough negotiator. And that's the
Yeah,
those like the negotiation parts of the film I think are some of the most interesting
they're
parts.
great.
they're
Yeah.
they're trying to
Yeah.
he's really trying to make this work for him and look what he did. He wound up getting
Well,
two different two different places agreeing to give up somebody for the same person.
for the same bloke. Well, what the most interesting part to me, not being smart at all, is that closing credit in the because about the real life guy, how he was then after this he was hired to go and negotiate with Fidel Castro to release 1,000 odd prisoners, and he got 9,000 people. I mean, that to me it was like that was honestly the most interesting part of them. And not that I didn't like the movie, but that was the most interesting
Cool.
part of this character. Sorry.
Where's the sequel?
Yes, sequel to Bridge of Spies. That'll be a hit.
Getting sent down to negotiate with Castro after the Bay of Pigs. It's like, where's that
That would
movie?
have been a better movie. Exactly, would have been a better one. I mean, sorry, I did like Bridge of Spies, but that would have been a more interesting movie. I would think. But anyway,
I think it like it's weird to think, but like I'm down for that. If I never thought I would want a sequel to Bridge of Spies, but like
Pigs of Pigs of Spies or Bridge of Pigs.
either one of them, movie gold right there. So, which obviously, like the bridge means multiple
Hmm.
things because like his whole entire job is to build
Yeah.
bridges between people and negotiate, and but
Well, he is the bridge too, right?
and he specifically is that bridge, and then the literal
Yeah.
bridge at the end of the film, which I think, and I have to say something in general about this era of Spielberg that I think bothers me a lot, how a lot of people perceive it. Yes, the
Yeah.
BFG and Ready Player One are messy. They're, I think they were bigger ideas than how they turned out to me, but all the others, so like Lincoln, this, The Post, I think get a bad rap for just being quote unquote Oscar bait. And
Yeah, yeah.
and I don't appreciate that because like these are really well crafted films and really well made films. And like
No,
Spielberg's a
very
great
much.
director. There's a lot of tension in
Yeah,
this film. And there's some
absolutely.
impactful moments like the parallel of him on the train in
Yes.
Berlin and the guy running up
Yeah.
the fence and getting killed. And then at
Hmm.
the end of the film, seeing the little kids running up that fence back home, and he still has that like he got out, he did his job, but a little something came back with him.
There's look. I think the message there is that we're all the same people. We're all the same world. We're just lucky that we're here, and they're unlucky that they're there. That
Mhm.
these kids were able to, they jump a fence because they're free.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a big message.
and I think this film in particular is probably one of the most under the radar Spielberg films.
Yeah,
Because, like, if you
yeah,
told somebody, name as many Spielberg films as you can, this is probably one that's going to get left off. Um,
yeah.
it's it has obviously has a lot of talent behind it. Spielberg, so just the normal Spielberg directing, John Williams composing, Janusz Kaminski
Michael Kahn.
shooting, and then
Yeah.
Tom Hanks starring, Cohen's rewriting. Like, there's so much working for this film, and it's just not flashy. Like, this isn't an action adventure. It isn't science fiction. It
Do you
isn't
know what?
like,
In 2015, how many Marvel movies were coming out around that time? Look,
yeah,
that's the thing. It's just this is where cinema, again, being a grumpy old man that I'm turning into, this is where cinema is turning. It's like there's a lot, like you said, there's so much talent behind this film. And I would love to wager that probably more than half of this film's box office or total income came after the fact that Mark Rylance won the Oscar, because like people are going, who the hell is this dude, and
yeah.
why was he so good to beat Rocky?
Yeah,
It's
I
like
imagine this definitely got a Academy Award bump
got a bump.
at the box office.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, which it's true, like this kind of mid-sized thriller, I think that even came up recently with like Soderbergh, I think came out and made a
Hmm.
comment related to like 70s thrillers and stuff like that. Obviously, this is a Cold War thriller, but like you don't get a ton of these like mid-budget kind of thrillers like this. And unless you're Spielberg and you can make whatever the hell you want, I don't think
Yeah,
this kind of film's getting
yeah.
made.
You're right.
And
Well, if no, it's the trend now is murder mysteries. Like we've got three coming out in 2 months.
yeah,
Um, I mean, cinema runs in trends. So yeah, you're right. I mean, the '70s had what, the French Connection, the Sting, and God knows what
um,
else. The last probably
three,
great one I can
3
think of
days
is
of con.
Sneakers. Yeah, yeah. And there's Serpico and things like that. And what did we get last time? Sneakers from '93. Can I think of anything between Sneakers and, I don't know, off the top of my head, but as those mid low budget thrillers, like, yeah, that's hard to,
Which
they're few and far between.
yeah, this is because like obviously too, it's we've gotten past, the Cold War's over. The Cold War ended like 30 plus years ago at this point. So it's like we're getting that distance
Hmm.
between it. James Bond was able
Yeah.
to get over it. The rest of us can too. That that was an interesting thing. Is James Bond going to survive the Cold War ending? Because the whole entire thing of James Bond
Yeah.
was based on the Cold War, and like
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like you have this kind of film, and I'm glad this film got made because I really like this film a lot. I think
Yeah.
Tom
Yeah. It's
Hanks
good.
gives a
Very
great
good.
performance. You have a lot of important smaller performances. Like I think Amy Ryan's nice in this film as his wife. Alan Alda popping up briefly. Obviously, we talked about
Yep.
Mark Rylance at this point. Um,
Jesse Plemons from nowhere.
yeah, honestly, it's like, and then
Sorry.
like
Sorry.
Austin Stowell, who played like the actual pilot who got captured. Um, which I think
Hmm.
it's so interesting looking back that Jesse Plemons was like the other guy in this movie, and
Yeah,
honestly, look
yes,
where
yes.
Jesse Plemons' career went. A
Well, it
lot.
was interesting to see Billy Magnuson. I thought Billy Magnuson. No,
Oh yeah, he popped up very pretty briefly. I'm like, oh look who it is.
that was the funniest part of the movie when Hanks deliberately delayed, not dating his daughter. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, and like uh Dakin Matthews, who played the judge, who he popped up briefly in Lincoln. He popped up in this. There's one other actor who was in Lincoln that pops up as the
Okay.
CIA guy. Um, and I'm trying to remember because he was one of the pro-slavery representatives in Lincoln, and I can't find a
Okay.
biography.
I don't remember Lincoln. I know I've seen it, but I don't remember it much.
Well, anyway, it's a Spielberg film, so you know you're gonna find some nice character actor work popping up in it. Not quite on like Lincoln level, where literally half of Hollywood was in it. But like
Hmm.
this has a
Yeah, yeah.
cast. It's well directed. There's a lot of great tension. There's there's a lot of moments where it's especially when we get to East Berlin, and you're just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
he's worried about if he's going to be okay. We're worried about if he's going to be okay. Basically, any room he might walk into and try to negotiate in, is he going to be okay? And
Hmm.
it's just like, do you have a jacket I could borrow? It's like, what happened to your jacket? Like the whole thing with him getting his jacket
Yeah.
getting taken and stuff like that.
But
And
he knew too. That was a great part. Like he goes,
yeah,
well, it was from Saks Fifth Avenue, wasn't it? He's like, so he was set up.
well, that's the thing because what I appreciate most about like this film would not have worked as well with a different protagonist. I think Tom Hanks's
No.
character is world weary enough, clever enough, and hard nosed enough to make so much of this film interesting. And I think that's
Yes.
what
Yeah.
makes all those scenes that he's in work so well. And like some of the
Yeah.
parts that might slow a little bit for me, or some of the ones where it's like, I know they need to set up the pilot and all that part of the film. That was probably the part of the
Hmm.
film that I was least interested in because, like, I don't really care too much about the pilot. He's just a character.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but what I find so interesting is the morally gray areas that this film reaches for towards the end, where it's just like they don't care about this pilot. The U.S. government hates this pilot because he didn't
Yeah.
kill himself and he let him
Hmm.
get captured, but they care so much about getting him back. And
Yes.
that's
It's a
the
win.
that's the tough kind of moral ambiguity that this film pushes because it's like obviously the government cares so much about getting this person back, but it's not for the reasons why you would think as being like a human caring about this person. No, that's not why they did it. It's to cover their own asses. That's why they did it.
Well, we don't. The same story can be said of the Russians, but we don't see that side of it because at the end on the bridge, Mark Rylance is like, if they just put me in the back of the car, they'll kill me. If they hug me, then they want me. So, same thing. They would have hated him because he was captured and assumed he gave up a lot of information. And then
Exactly.
when they see him just gets put back in the car, and that look that they give each other, because they kind of become friends, right?
Yeah.
Um, it's kind of it's heartbreaking in a way, right? Even though he's the enemy, like it's still like he's a human, so he's just going to get popped in the head as they drive away,
Yeah.
Goodfellas style. So it's
Which
yeah.
it's so interesting because like this is going to be the weirdest film I'm going to quote today that has nothing to do with this, but the somebody just quote because like in the Water Boy there's a part where the coach is like, we're
The
going
water boy.
to the left, we're going to fake to the right, no, we're going to think like we're going to fake, where am I don't know where I am. And like the over mind
That's a
games
good
in
Henry
this
Winkler,
movie.
by the way.
Yeah, the over mind games going on in this film where it's just like it's all like this is all game theory and stuff like that where it's just
A lot
like
of subtext. Yeah.
we know he gave up all of his information, but do they?
Yeah.
We don't know anything.
No, yeah.
Like they're
It's
like
all assumption. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
and it's just like we know that Abel gave up all of this information. So it would only make sense that he's not useful anymore. There's no value to him. We would only trade him if your guy gave up everything that he had. And when it really came down to it, did the pilot give up stuff?
We don't officially know, do we? We saw him not, but it doesn't mean he didn't.
Yeah, and that's the thing because in the end, does it matter if they really gave up stuff or not? It's all perception.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right.
And that's the game. That's this gambit that they're
Mm,
playing here of like,
yeah.
and who's the best at playing this game? Tom Hanks's character. Because he knows
Yeah.
exactly how to push the buttons on all these people. And that's what I love so much about this. And like I feel like this is one of Spielberg's hardest movies to sell to people. It's like, do you want
Yes.
to watch a movie where Tom Hanks tries to negotiate with people for two plus and a half hours? It's just
Yeah.
like, uh,
Yeah. You won't hate it, but
yeah. But the thing is, it's so well done. It's so well acted. It's
yeah.
really well written, and just
Yes. Very well.
everything from like the technical aspects really come together like any Spielberg film does. Because that's the thing. You could rely on the fact that this was directed by Steven Spielberg, shot by Kaminsky, composed by Williams. It's going to come together. That's the thing.
I don't think Williams did the music for this. I don't think John Williams did do the music for this.
Am I just making
I think it
assumptions?
was no, it was Tom. It was another guy I've heard of. I'm going to look for it now. Sorry to be that guy. Ah, come on, scroll. You
Oh, it
two.
was Thomas Newman. You know what?
Yes.
This sounded like a Thomas score. So there you go. I think this is, well, it'd be interesting to look if this is the first film since like the 70s that John Williams didn't compose. Because, right, he
Yeah.
was supposed to
Yeah.
retire in 2015 after he did Force Awakens.
Oh, was he? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, and then he came out of retirement because Disney and Star Wars, Lucasfilms keeps like pulling him back in. It's just like one more score, John. One more score.
What have they got on him? I wonder where they're keeping the secret tapes. We'll release it, John.
John Williams is a Jedi, and he's trying to keep that a secret. You heard it here
Yeah,
first.
maybe.
Conspiracy theories on YouTube. Um,
Yeah.
but anyway,
Against John Williams of all
if you
people.
need somebody to replace John Williams, Thomas Newman's is a good substitute here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Point still is there's so much great talent going into this film.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think it all really comes together in a strong way. And is this Spielberg's flashiest film? By no means. No. Um, is this top 10 Spielberg? Impossible, because when you're Spielberg and
No.
have like at least 10 masterpieces, A Bridge of Spies isn't going to touch that. But
Well, yeah. Yeah.
for me, this is still top 20 Spielberg for me, which that's weird saying like top 20, but like this is a really
Yeah.
well-made film. And I hope more people appreciate the dramas from this era of Spielberg a little bit more.
It's a nice little history lesson. I thought it was a nice little history lesson. And that's what, one of the reasons I like film is that, I get to learn a bit as well. So, yeah.
It is a good history lesson. And I think it's a really good insight into how our governments play politics with each other.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
this crap still happens. Every time we have an
Yeah.
American stuck in a foreign country, how are we going to get them back? This crap's going on. They're sending a
Yeah.
Tom Hanks type character, a Donovan type character in, trying to figure out how we could get that person home. And
Mhm.
this is a really interesting insight into that. But
Yeah.
I know between the two of us, we have some interesting movies to recommend to you all. So, Adam, would you like to recommend some of the things that you were talking about? Which you could throw out a
I've
couple.
kind of forgotten what I was. Yeah, I've got a. Yeah, I've watched a few 5 stars. A couple of my all-time favorites, but firstly, I'll go with a new release, The Menu, with Ray Fiennes, Anya Taylor-Joy, Nicholas Hoult, Hong Chang. Quickly leapt into my second favorite movie of the year so far. It has. I'm still unpacking it, to be honest. There's a lot. It's one of those films that I seem to gravitate towards is thematically dense films. And this is definitely that. There's a lot going on, and I cannot wait to see it again and wait for a 4K release. It better come out in Australia, or I will be riding in the streets.
Which, quick side
So
note,
yeah, that's
not to spoil anything, what the moment where you start to realize one particular character might be similar to like online movie critics, and like
yeah,
it's like
yeah, I know,
and I'm
yeah.
just like,
It was hard writing my letterbox review after without putting myself in this shit. Going, this is about critics ruining everything. I'm like, I'm just a dude with opinions. I'm no critic, but yeah, this is aimed at me, you bastards. But I still love this movie so much. It's so great.
that moment that kind of came to that realization, I knew who this character was supposed to be representing at that point. I'm just like,
Yeah, yes.
oh, no.
You like that meme, that puppet meme was just like,
The Muppet Monkey, where you're just like,
yeah.
yep, that's me. It's me right there. Which also, my friend Alex was like blurting out laughing so many times in this movie.
Yeah,
This is so funny and so
it's very
messed
funny.
up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I would definitely
It's got
agree. I
everything
highly
going for it.
recommend The Menu too.
Yeah. Um, one more. Which one? I'm going to recommend. It's I think currently my sixth favorite movie of all time, which is probably I don't know what that's saying, but it's just one of my favorites. Joe Dante, The Burbs, Tom Hanks film. Strangely enough, back when he used to do comedy, proper comedy. Not Christopher Lloyd, Bruce Dern and Christopher Lloyd. I don't know why I mix them up, but Bruce Dern is also in this. It is such a great satire on suburban living. Sticky beak neighbours poking into the new neighbours who seem type of creepy and this and that. And without giving too much away, just honestly, if you can watch it, I'm sure it's streaming somewhere in America. It's tough to get in Australia, to be honest. I just happen to own it. But it's funny. It's just a whole vibe about this film, especially when the three idiot neighbors kind of do their own investigation on the creepy neighbors because they think they're killing people or burying people in the backyard. It's again one of those films. It's just a nice little brain escape to sit back and enjoy and love, and it's fantastic.
So to confirm, it is streaming nowhere and is not available on
Ooh.
VOD anywhere in the US.
Isn't not even on iTunes?
According to Just Watch that I use, it's not popping up.
Yeah. Oh, that's
but
insane.
it is available on Amazon if you want to buy it on DVD or Blu-ray. So, you know what? You're just gonna have to get a physical media copy of something, people.
Yes,
there you go.
Look behind Shane. He obviously doesn't like physical media much. So,
what? Who are you talking about? Which I remember watching The Burbs as a kid. I have not watched it in years, but for some reason I remember Henry Gibson the most, who is like the creepy neighbor guy.
yeah, it's such a quotable film too. It just has so many funny lines in it. Yeah, and Henry Gibson, he's not in it much, but it's his family that are the funny ones. It's who's the redheaded? He's like an inbred redheaded child, inbred red. I can't remember his name, but he's been in lots of stuff.
Is it Courtney Gaines?
Courtney Gaines, yes. I think he even does some writing for some things. But
Oh my
he's
God, he
so
was the
funny,
kid Malachi from Children of the Corn.
right? Mate, this is like a grown up Children of the. It's just Joe Dante is he's actually one of my sneaky favorite directors, and I don't know that many people know his work, but Joe Dante did Gremlins, Small Soldiers, and The Howling, and things like that. Like he's
Love
made some trash, but geez, he's made some great films, and this is his best. So
too many. Do I not have it? Oh crap, that's a shame.
can't find.
Small
Someone
Soldiers.
stole it.
Love Small Soldiers. Oh my
Small
God.
Soldiers is awesome, right?
I watched that so
Yeah,
much as a kid. And then when you're older, you
yeah,
get
yeah.
the
Oh,
when you get the idea that like most of the Gorgonites are Spinal Tap, and then most of
the
the
other,
Commando Elite are the Dirty Dozen, and you're just like, what?
yes, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's good, right? It's very cool.
Joe Dante was a very specific time period in
Yeah,
I think in
it's
life with like
a
like
good run.
Howling and Gremlins and Small Soldiers was definitely. I've never seen Inner Space. I forget who was talking.
Oh,
I heard that pop
I
up
watched Inner Space a couple of
somewhere.
months ago. Um, Inner Space is not bad. It's your Martin Short and Dennis Quaid and Meg Ryan. I guess that's where Meg and Dennis met and made Jack, right?
Yeah.
But it's a bit of fun. It's quite a bit of fun. Inner Space. Um, Martin Short. I'm not the biggest fan in the world of Martin Short, but yeah. I'd still recommend Inner Space though. It's worth checking out as well.
Martin Short's at his best when he was with Steve Martin.
Yes, three amigos every day. How do you know it's a male plane?
And then just throw Chevy Chase in there,
Little boy.
being a dick.
Yeah, yeah,
Probably
yeah,
somewhere.
yeah.
Um,
I
now,
love Chevy, but he is a dick.
yep, 100%. My new film that I wanted to recommend is indeed The Fabelmans because I did get to see that 2 days ago. Which, when I heard that people were saying it's one of potentially Spielberg's best, I'm like, the saying it's Spielberg's best is that's a tall order.
It's a big call.
Yeah,
That's a big call.
but to say it's one of his best, I don't think that's outside the realm of possibility. It's very personal and intimate, and
Yeah.
I'd venture to say I haven't seen a coming of age story done this well in a while. And
Okay.
it has the technical prowess of Spielberg. The perspective that the film takes on through Sammy Fabelman's eyes is very interesting. And now I feel like I understand Steven Spielberg a lot better. And it makes a lot
Yeah.
of
Okay.
sense to me. And to be honest, Sammy Fabelman spoke to me quite a bit. And I'm sitting there like, I
Okay.
could really connect with this character. And like, there's definitely moments where I feel like I don't want to get into it because I don't want to like spoil the experience of it. So I'm just going to say Sammy has a very specific perspective on the world. And I think that perspective made him a perfect director. And
Right.
seeing
Okay.
the cinematic nature of life and how the film portrays that is so interesting. But has a great cast. The young man who plays Sammy Fabelman, great. And then you have Michelle Williams, Paul Dano, Judd Hirsch in his small role in the film, and then
Really? Okay.
Seth Rogen. Um, and
Yeah.
I have to say, the final scene of this movie might be one of my favorite scenes in movies this year. And here's the thing. This I I think this scene is tough because it could have easily been like a eye rolling kind of
Right.
too knowing of a scene. But for me, especially
Right.
as like a cinephile, I ate that scene up. And there is a
Okay.
cameo in it that is insane. So it's
Okay.
this
Damn
film.
it! I've got 6 weeks before I can see this film. 6 weeks I gotta wait.
Sorry, Adam. so, um, so definitely see the Fabelmans. My one that I got off my watch list was because of Adam, and we're actually going to make another video right after this for it. Is Pleasantville, and how did this and the Truman Show come out in the same year?
And what an amazing double feature they are.
Yep.
Amazing double feature. A lot of similarities.
Yep. And I immediately watched this and was blown away by it and loved it, and got in an argument on TikTok over it.
For real.
Somebody's trying to argue.
I love that you loved it.
Somebody was arguing with me who hasn't watched it, to their own assertion, in years, was like, oh, this couldn't have aged well. And I'm like,
why?
You haven't even watched it.
It's an ageless movie. It's not. It's.
Oh, it definitely is, because I'm sitting there watching this being like, gay people, trans people. And I'm just sitting there like, this is way too topical, because this feels exactly like the world we live in today. And
yeah.
And the beauty of it is it's all metaphorical. It can translate to anything. So that, I think that works so well, and this is, and I didn't expect this to be such an amazing technical achievement either, but like, dang, they're able to do with like the color and the black and white, really impressive. And shout out to Don Knotts, who just popped up. That was
he's good though too. Like,
that was perfect casting, and obviously it's very knowing casting, but like it works perfectly in what it needed to be. And that pre-Spider-Man Tobey Maguire over here,
and Reese Witherspoon, and both doing very fine work.
Yeah,
Paul Walker.
You know what? He showed up, and I'm just like, wait a minute. Is that Paul Walker?
Yeah. And he's good. He plays a dumbass, and he's good.
Yeah. I love Jeff Daniels in this movie. William H. Macy.
Joan Allen.
Joan
Allen. Where's my dinner?
I almost lost
Where's my dinner? So fucking
Honey,
funny.
I'm home. I'm home. And he's just wandering the house like, that killed me.
He looks in the pot. Where's my dinner? So good.
Killed me. And my last recommendation, because not gonna lie, I watched a lot of my own movies in the past week, because like I literally took a day off for my birthday and watched 8 of my own movies, some of my favorite movies.
8 in the day.
Literally, that's all I did. I woke up and just watched movies the whole entire day. I do that once a year for my birthday.
That's amazing.
So
I think 5 is my best, and that was a full day. So 8 is very impressive.
Yeah, because like I woke up and so just to run through here. So Shane's movie marathon of 2022 for his birthday.
They weren't Lord of the Rings, obviously.
Well, I actually saved Lord of the Rings for my party, because so what I wound up doing was I sent a Google form out to my friends. For those who can make it, we went to go see The Menu in theaters at like 1:30, and then we came back to watch some movies, eat some pizza, stuff like that. And I sent out a ballot with my top 25 favorite films, and you had to check the box every one that you'd be interested in watching, and the top 3 ended up being Fellowship of the Ring. I just put the first one on there. I didn't put all 3 of them on there, even though they are all at the top. I put Fellowship got it, The Thing got it, and then The Godfather, which we definitely didn't have time for that. So Godfather was not watched. Because trying to squeeze in The Godfather and Lord of the Rings for one party was, we would have been up until 1 o'clock in the morning watching it. And I was tired. So, but on my actual birthday, I wound up finally watching the black and chrome version of Fury Road.
Oh, it's good, right? It's very really pretty.
So I watched that. Then I watched Ben-Hur. Then I watched Shrek, because I watch Shrek or Shrek 2 every year for my birthday. I was inspired after listening to the Cinephiles episode of this Captain America: The First Avenger So I rewatched that
Okay.
because that's one of my favorite Marvel movies. And then I got a
Hmm.
new 4K of The Untouchables, and I'm like, gonna
Oh
try this out.
yes. Yeah.
Pop
Yeah.
that in. Then The Big Lebowski, The Grand Budapest Hotel, and finish the night with What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh, okay. That's a good run. That's a
He's like,
good run.
the Beast. Whoa. What are we? We're werewolves, not swearwolves. Reese Darby is a gem. Reese Darby should be in everything.
Last time we spoke, I told you about Wrecked. You would love Wrecked. That's
The
three
whole
seasons.
series is not streaming anywhere. They only
Is it
have
on TBS?
they don't have the whole series. They only have
What?
parts of it.
That's weird.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed.
How does that make sense?
Once it's available somewhere, the whole thing, I'm watching it. It's on my watch list, and then we'll make a video
Yeah,
about it.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Absolutely. Let's do
yeah.
it. I've seen it 3 times, so and it's one of my all-time favorites because it's just such an easy, fun watch.
Mhm.
It's so stupid, but great,
But
great
the,
stupid.
the formal recommendation I want to make here is The Thing, which I watched for my party, which is my second favorite horror film behind The Shining. I love The Thing so much, and it's a nice introduction to the next director on Welcome to the Wasteland because John Carpenter is going to
Yes.
be on there, which we got Adam down for Memoirs of an Invisible Man as a backup, and then
Stephen
Escape
Away.
from New York as the because
Oh,
like
New York. Yeah.
yeah, I not a lot of people want so like past like 5 movies, I did not get a whole lot of people wanting to sign up for Carpenter films. So I'm gonna have a couple of people on for 2 of them. So oh well.
Yeah, that's weird. I actually had a Carpenter run earlier this year because I got a four of his movies in a 4 pack, and all of a sudden I wake up and I own eight John Carpenter
Yeah.
4K films, and they're all great. They're all great in
Well,
their own way.
and I think I would argue that The Thing is his best film. I think it's
Yeah,
his
yeah,
best
yeah.
made film. I think, and
Yep.
my God, the paranoia and the tension that builds in this movie. And I was trying to be more like trying to play the game a little bit more this time, being like, when did people
Hmm.
get like grabbed? Because like, and trying to figure that out. And it's tough. And you get to the end, and you're just like, one of the
Mm.
darkest, coldest endings of a movie that you could possibly get. Fits as they're stuck in the Arctic.
It actually reminded me of, and I think I said it in my letterbox review because that was the first John Carpenter movie I've ever seen. Is The Thing, and for some reason I had it in my head that he was just a schlocky horror slasher director. But then I saw this, I'm like, hang on, he's got something behind him. Like this is a great film. And then I found watching his other stuff. They're actually really fantastic films. But my letterbox review for The Thing was like, this feels like at the end, I'm expecting Mulder and Scully to come in. Like this is a prequel to an X-Files episode or something. I was thinking that it'd be great to see Mulder and Scully just pop in and follow on the story from there, just to investigate what the hell has happened.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
it's such a fast and like obviously they were struck try and then they made a prequel, The Thing, about the Norwegian site, and
right.
that came out in like
Yeah,
the
that's the 2013 one, right?
yeah. But like
Yeah,
this, like between have Kurt Russell at the core of it, who's such a great he's so great at anchoring these kinds of films, and then you have the Keith David,
yeah. He's
Wilford
awesome.
Brimley. Oh my God, Wilford Brimley was so great in this, except he was so I could not comprehend him that without a mustache. I'm just like looking at him as like, where's your mustache? um, but
That's
like
good.
the special effects in this film are off the charts, and it's just such a amazing film. And I think one of the biggest sins of Carpenter's films is he never has big enough of a budget. This film, I think he had the right budget for it,
Yeah,
and it all came
yeah.
together.
It
Because, like,
felt
to be
right.
honest, I think, and we'll be talking about this. I think Escape from New York's biggest issue is that it doesn't have the budget to like
Yep.
meet the scope of what he wanted this film to be. And even they like run through the last 10 minutes of the movie because you're like, oh no, we ran out of budget. Quick to the top of the building.
Yeah.
That's kind of how the third act
I
feels.
like They Live. I was amazed at how much I liked They Live because like Roddy Piper, like, come on, like, this is going to be. I know we're not here to talk about that, but there's that one fight between him and Keith David in that alleyway that just goes on forever, and I'm like, it wasn't annoying me in the end. I was just pissing myself laughing, going, "This is unbelievable. These guys should be dead." That's just great. That's just so great.
Yeah, well, that's why they're like, we got Rowdy Piper, gotta make the most of this.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
thing is, 100% that was a Kurt Russell move. I feel like you could just tell between the mullet and the like John Nader just screams Kurt Russell, but like maybe Kurt Russell wasn't available and they got Roddy Piper
Probably
at the
Disney, yeah.
peak of his wrestling popularity. And it's so crazy looking at Roddy Piper being like, Piper was never the biggest wrestler. And then you see him next to regular
No.
people and you're just like, this man is
Yeah.
monstrous. Next to Keith David, I'm like, my God. Because the thing is,
Yeah, and
next to
Keith was
Hulk
pretty ripped
Hogan.
too.
Yeah, Keith
Yeah.
David's not a small dude. And then you see like
No.
Piper next to Hulk Hogan and
Yeah.
Piper's
Yeah.
small.
Yeah.
So like, but anyway, you should watch the thing. But those are all
Yes.
of our lovely recommendations to all of you here for Welcome to the Wasteland. Hope you enjoyed. And if you haven't seen Bridge of Spies, show this one some love. I will be coming back next week with my BFG episode. I only have 5 more Spielberg episodes. We got the BFG, the Post, Ready Player One, West Side Story, and the Fabelmans coming. And then it's John Carpenter time to start the new year. But Adam, thank you so much for joining me.
Nice. Yeah, pleasure as always. Thanks for having me.
And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.